Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Veenu Sandhu. It's the 10th of November 2023 and here are the questions we will be answering today.
Will Supreme Court's order solve North India's air pollution woes? What does Bihar's caste survey reveal? How will markets play out in Samvat 2080? And what is Rafah crossing?
It's been a fortnight since Delhi saw a clear sky. The sun has almost disappeared behind a thick wall of toxic grey haze. Worried about its impact on people's health, the Supreme Court on the 7th of November directed the governments of Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh to take urgent steps to douse farm fires. The top court is also exploring long-term measures to address this recurring menace. So will this decision by the Apex Court solve North India's pollution woes? Tariq Ahmed and Ayush Mishra find out.
Schools are shut again. All construction activities have come to a grinding halt. Old vehicles are off the road. Days have turned dark and nights are even darker. Pulmonary departments of most hospitals are choking, and doctors are gasping for breath as the number of patients suffering from respiratory ailments have jumped sharply. Yes, it's November. That part of the year when fields across North India light up with fire, and smoke and black soot emanating from them engulf Delhi and surrounding areas. But there is a silver lining. The Supreme Court, while hearing a batch of petitions, directed the governments of Punjab, Rajasthan and Haryana to take immediate steps to stop stubble burning. A bench of Justices S.K. Kaul and Sudhanshu Dhulia put the onus of stopping the fires on the respective station house officers and asked the chief secretaries of state to oversee it. The court said that for the time being, this crop burning has to stop. Then it will see what can be done in the long term. The next hearing in the current case will take place today on November 10th. In 2017, the Apex Court had banned the burning of Diwali firecrackers in Delhi NCR to check air pollution. And a year later, in 2018, it had banned 10-year-old diesel vehicles and 15-year-old petrol vehicles from plying in NCR. So will SC's order stop North India's air pollution woes?
But because of this order, now the central government and the state governments have to set up council or task force and deploy machinery and alternative uses of stubble in order to reduce the pollution, and it is doable. So I think we need to think about that. We have to move away from rice in the areas where there is no water or water scarcity is there, and rice can be grown, is already been grown in the areas where there is ample water like Chhattisgarh, Kerala. In the meantime, while the crop diversification and other things happen, government has to look into how the machines can be deployed. Alternative uses of straw has to be there.
During the hearing of the current case, the Apex Court pointed the finger towards a particular breed of paddy which is cultivated late at this time of the year, as a third crop between the Rabi and Kharif seasons. The division bench called for a shift to other crops as a long-term measure. The division bench of the court said that paddy cultivation must be phased out to be substituted with other crops, and the central government should explore the aspect of giving minimum support price for alternative crops rather than going for paddy. Some experts blame the situation on the Punjab government's Preservation of Subsoil and Water Act of 2009. Its aim was to conserve groundwater by mandatorily delaying the transplanting of paddy to beyond June 10th, when the most severe phase of water evaporation is over. Farmers were forbidden from sowing paddy before May 10th and transplanting it before June 10th. Haryana too has a similar law, so the harvesting was pushed to October from September earlier. It leaves a very small window to prepare their fields for the next crop. So farmers resort to stubble burning as a quick fix. An analysis of the wind flow patterns also reveals that wind blows into Delhi primarily from the west during the monsoon season, but it changes direction in October and starts blowing into Delhi from the north. The temperature falls too, and a combination of atmospheric and meteorological conditions ensure that the smoke cannot disperse easily. Also, there has been criticism that more attention is given to Delhi's air pollution, overlooking the polluted air in the neighboring states.
Delhi is a capital, and if we are not able to control air pollution in Delhi as the capital of India, and it happens elsewhere also, like it happened in Beijing, China has had to control in a big way the air pollution there. London also, in past that happened, California and other cities. So failure or the success comes from the capital, and other cities learn from capital. So if we have to prove with certain efforts, and it has to become a model that how the air pollution control can happen, and it will help the other cities also to find solutions.
Meanwhile, IIT Kanpur has suggested cloud seeding or artificial rain as a possible temporary solution for Delhi's polluted air. Delhi's air pollution is mainly driven by the PM 2.5 and PM 10 pollutants, and the rain can give a temporary solution by allowing the dust particles to sediment. Is cloud seeding really a possible solution for air pollution?
Cloud seeding suggested by IIT Kanpur will work very well in the short term, especially on these very severe days. It may be not a bad thing to do because, eventually, we don't want to economic activity to suffer, and we want, so I think as a short-term solution, it's good. But in the long term, I think you will need a much more systematic, coordinated, Indo-Gangetic plain wide approach to address air pollution. And you will have to chip at the sources one by one, systematically making sure that the economic case is made so that it does not happen at the cost of the farmers or at the cost of construction workers, but that you are both also economically thinking, you are both doing that transition to clean construction, to clean energy, to clean agriculture, while and that will what will give us the clean air, and that is what will solve North India's air pollution woes.
Clearly, a shift away from paddy seems to be a practical solution. But for that, political will is required. The Supreme Court has given a ray of hope, and it may nudge the government to take some big steps.
Apart from the usual pollutants, the air of North India is also getting thick and charged with politics, with general elections approaching. Political parties are trying to outdo each other in wooing electorates. Nitish Kumar's JDU, for instance, has come out with a report of its caste survey. The findings of the survey were tabled in the State Assembly this week. Kasturi Akhil offers a detailed analysis.
The Bihar government tabled the report of its caste survey in the State Assembly on 7th November. This survey was conducted between January and August this year, and its initial report was released last month. And now, the Nitish Kumar-led government has come out with social, economic, and educational data. Some of its findings are startling. Like 14% of the state's population still lives in huts. Over a third of the families in the state survive on a monthly income of 6,000 rupees or less. And over 63% of families have a monthly income of up to 10,000 rupees. Only 14% have cleared standard 10. And less than 1% of the population has a postgraduate degree. Only 1.5% of people in the state have government jobs. Bihar's caste survey report might go down in history if Chief Minister Nitish Kumar implements his promise to increase the reservation limit to 75% from the existing 60%. It also includes a 10% quota for economically weaker sections. The state cabinet has cleared this proposal and it awaits nod from the assembly. The release of the survey report marks the first time after the 1931 caste-based census that the findings on the caste breakup have been made public. In 2011, Congress-led UPA government had undertaken a socio-economic and caste census or SECC data. However, its findings were never revealed. Let's dwell into detail. The report found that of the 2.76 crore families living in Bihar, 94 lakh earned less than 6,000 rupees in a month and were considered poor by the government. Data showed that the highest proportion of poor families was recorded amongst the scheduled castes at 42.93% and 42.7% scheduled tribes fell in the poor category, followed by extremely backward classes or EBCs at 34%. 33% other backward classes or OBCs were poor, and about 25% of families from the general category were found to be poor. On the education front, a paltry 6% of the 13 crore population in Bihar has a graduation degree. Among the general category, about 13% of their population are graduates, while on the other hand, a meager 3% of the SCs were found to be graduates, and about 67% of the state's population was either students or homemaker women. Data shows that of the 20 lakh people employed in government jobs, over 6 lakh each belong to the general category and the OBCs, followed by the SCs with about 3 lakh and STs with only 30,164 persons working in government jobs. Besides high out-migration, the general category was also in the lead when it comes to vehicle ownership, residential ownership, and internet access. 95% of the state's population owned a vehicle, only around 1% had internet access on their laptops, and 14% of the total population lived in huts, data showed. What were the key takeaways for experts from Bihar's caste survey report?
Apart from giving the OBCs their due and SC/STs their due, greater reservation in government jobs, and I would say even more important, in educational institutions, because that's where the story starts. And I think we haven't laid enough emphasis on that part, in educational institutions, not just of higher learning. I think it needs to probably go down further. And also look at the larger picture. Jobs are going to be the challenge for India. That is what is also coming out of the Bihar survey report. How do you create jobs? It's all right to say that just over 1% government jobs are available. How many people are going to be accommodated there? So I think really we have to look as a country, as different communities, the corporate sector, the government, state, center. I think we need to put our heads together.
Since there is no comparable survey, it's hard to figure out what has changed and what hasn't. But what it definitely reveals is that there is, localized inequality between different jatis, between different communities that might vary from, say, district to district. And the availability of this granular data, which is at the jati level, which breaks down even the categories, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, OBCs, etc., EBCs, can in principle allow for a much more nuanced and appropriate policy framework that targets the gaps exactly at the level that they need to be targeted.
Clearly, the caste survey paints a grim picture of Bihar. But is more reservation the answer? If it is, then why didn't it translate after over 7 decades of implementation? Clearly, there are lacunae due to which the benefits of reservation are not reaching the needy. And without addressing it, there are chances that this latest exercise may also fall short of its promises.
Let us now shift our focus to financial markets. The Lal Street is ready to enter Samvat 2080 after a year which saw markets reach lifetime highs to retreat sharply thereafter. As Samvat 2079 comes to an end with modest returns, will the gains sustain in Samvat 2080? Harshita Singh's report tells us what analysts think.
After clocking in nearly 10% returns in Samvat 2079, benchmark Sensex and Nifty indices will usher into the new Samvat next week against a dreary global backdrop. A swift rally from April this year, helped by a domestic rate hike pause and easing inflation, has come to a standstill amid a new global war and slowdown in some major economies. So how will the equity market play out in Samvat 2080? It will be a mix of volatility and strength, analysts say.
I think the Samvat 2080 will be a tale of two halves, with the first half being a one of volatility in the run-up to elections, and the second half is when we'd see the underlying strength in the economy and the growth in earnings that we're expecting to reflect in strong returns from markets. I think one big concern has been what will the US Fed be doing. We believe that while the rate cycle has been very steep, we are towards the fag end of this rate cycle. And while we will have higher rates for longer, which should impact the US economy a bit more, in India,
on markets returns, Sunil Nayati, Managing Director of Swastika Investmart, sees Nifty topping 24,000 in Samvat 2080 if the current government secures a third consecutive win in the national polls. This is a 24% upside for the Nifty index from current levels. Sinha Roy of ICICI Prudential Life, meanwhile, expects mid-teen returns from the Nifty 50. Among sectors, FMCG stocks will find favor amid volatility ahead of elections, while post-election policy certainty will lift domestic cyclicals, analysts say.
Domestic cyclicals should start doing well in the second half, driven by earnings growth and also driven by policy certainty post the elections. And I believe that sectors like financials and cement could do well, given that they are the biggest beneficiaries of the current capex cycle and the re-leveraging of the economy that is happening. And eventually, as the US market also starts to recover, we should expect IT to do well.
That said, the recent foreign outflows do not worry market experts much, as rate cuts in the US will prompt repositioning of funds from US debt to domestic equities.
I would say such kind of an outflow would have crashed the market substantially, but we did not crash and the market is resilient. It was majorly due to the domestic investment which has happened into the Indian stock market. So if you ask me, to my sense, we are in an early cycle of a bull run. There's a lot of money which is sitting into the bond market of US, because presently there the interest rate is hovering around 5.5%, which they have never seen. So a lot of money is flowing into the bond market of US. But when the interest rate will start declining, that money will start flowing into the emerging countries like India.
Thus, market experts suggest investors stay put in the Indian market, as the underlying economic strength and earnings cycle will keep equities afloat in the long run. Today, on November 10, investors will track India's IIP and Forex reserves data after the market hours.
He's making plans for an early retirement. Business Standard.
Not just in India, financial markets the world over are keeping a close eye on the ongoing war in West Asia. The world is also concerned about the developing humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. The only way through which aid is entering the region is the Rafah crossing. Tariq Ahmed has more on it.
Sandwiched between Israel and the Mediterranean Sea, people of the Gaza Strip have nowhere to go but south. Over there, a narrow passage which leads to Egypt is the sole passage to life. It is hope on the other side and death and destruction on the opposite. There are two crossings at the Egyptian border with Gaza, one of them which opens towards Rafah city of Gaza and abuts Egypt's Sinai Peninsula is known as Rafah Crossing. It is Palestinians' only window to the outside world, but restricted. It is meant for movement of people and goods. The other, Kerem Shalom, is solely a commercial goods junction with Israel in southern Gaza. When the war broke out, both the crossings were shut. the Gaza Strip has another crossing that is with Israel. It is called Erez Crossing, from where Palestinian workers enter Israel. Rafah Crossing got its name from the city of Rafah. In 1982, when Israel withdrew from the Sinai Peninsula, this city was divided into two parts. One side went to Egypt, while the other to Gaza, separating families on the two sides by a wall of barbed wires. The core of the city was demolished to make way for a buffer area between Israel and Egypt. Shut since Hamas' attack on Israel, the Rafah crossing was partially opened recently to allow a small number of aid trucks into Gaza. Several foreign nationals and injured Palestinians were also allowed to cross over to the other side. During peace, Hamas and Egypt controlled passage of people through this corridor, but now Egypt has restricted movement, fearing a massive influx of Palestinian refugees. Even during peace, entering into Egypt is not easy for Palestinians. They have to seek permission from the local Palestinian authorities 2 to 3 weeks in advance, and their wish may or may not be granted by either the Palestinian or Egyptian authorities.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
Meanwhile, the Hamas-run health ministry in the Gaza Strip has said that the death toll in the region is close to the 11,000 mark. Well, that's all for today. For more news and analysis, please log into our website, business-standard.com. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.